Hello, hello, and welcome to the Going Executive Director Show. My name is Brandy, and Jeff will be joining us here in a minute. Our purpose is to give you your skills, techniques, inspiration, motivation, and daily activities needed for you to build a solid, profitable business. Now remember, this is our team's philosophy. So if you are coming on for waiting for the MLM Leadership Show, that starts at noon, and here we will be talking about team specifics. So, today we are going over one of the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader by John Maxwell. And today we are talking about responsibility. So I think it goes without saying that most people know that they need to be responsible, but are you practicing the actions that come with being responsible? Now, when I think responsibility, I think of tasks that I need to do. So I'm actually pretty organized. I have a list of everything that I need to get done, and I have certain days of things that I need to do to do throughout the week for our business that we have. Another thing is making sure if you promise something that you follow through with what you're doing. That's another part of responsibility. And a really big one, if you were wrong about something, you need to admit that you did wrong or were wrong about something and then go and fix the issue. So, with that, I believe I'm going to have Jeff jump on, and he is going to give us our lesson today on how to have better responsibility.
All right. Dave Roders here. What's happening, sir? And we have on here, do you want to tag Brandy Pember? Sure, I'll tag Brandy Pember. So, every day, Monday through Friday, we go through one of these 21 qualities, and then next on the show, we do the 21 laws of leadership. So, responsibility, it says, if you won't carry the ball, you can't lead the team. So, the idea here is you have to pick up and be responsible. Nobody's going to do it for you. I think a lot of people get inside of direct sales and network marketing, and they're like, okay, I need 2 people, I need 6 people, I need 8 people, I need, a team of 25. And I think the first person you look to is, your sponsor. And you're like, okay, sponsor, I'm in. Now help me go get all these people. And the sponsor's like, okay, well, we're going to need to make a list. Well, yeah, I thought you were going to do that for me. And then eventually you realize, okay, maybe I have to make my own list. And you make your own list. And then what's next? You're going to have to then contact them. Okay, well, I thought my sponsor was going to contact them. No, I'm not going to contact them. What about, I don't want to contact him. We'll have somebody else contact him. Then we need to present to them. Well, I'm not a presenter. My sponsor should present, or my friend should present, or my cousin should present, or somebody in my upline, my team should present. The meeting should present. You mean I have to present too? So I have to be responsible for making a list, my own list. I have to be responsible for contacting these people. I have to be responsible for setting up an appointment. I have to be responsible. Well, that seems like a lot of work, and eventually it starts to set in that the person who needs to be responsible for all this is you. Not something normally that you want to hear. So, when you really get into it, John says a couple things about being responsible. Number one is leaders get the job done. Leaders take responsibility and they get the job done. So, leaders actually will sit down and actually make their own list when they get involved. They're not waiting around for somebody else to do it. They're going to make the list and they're going to get that done right off the bat. It says, in a study, self-made millionaires, Dr. Thomas Stanley of the University of Georgia found that they have one thing in common. They all work hard. Typically, that's not going to happen by accident. If you're going to get to where you want to go, you're going to work hard, no matter what you do. Building the holistic practice that we built, we worked hard. We were on the phone. We sent out, the messages. We followed up. It was consistent. It was every day, 7 days a week. 7 days a week to launch it, to get off the ground. Then it became 6 days a week, and, certain times it became 5 days a week. But 5 days a week was kind of a bare minimum. Usually it was 6 for a long period of time. And then eventually we were able to take days off, weeks off, and in fact take almost months off, but it took years to get to that point. I think what too many people see is they see the years off, or I'm sorry, they see the months off that we've taken, and they're like, oh, that business is easy. You have all this time on your hands. But it really comes down to responsibility, personal responsibility of you have to do it. And nobody wants to hear that. And inside of Legal Shield specifically, if you look at it, a lot of people are like, well, I think I'm just going to sell the product. And honestly, it's harder to sell the product than it is to recruit the people. It's harder. And here's why. If you look at the product itself, what you're really selling is responsibility, the topic we're talking about. And responsibility is not a popular topic. Responsibility is something most people avoid at all cost. The only thing that kind of makes people usually be responsible is something that financially is going to devastate them if it's not, or they've paid so much money for they follow through. For instance, most people, when they sign up for a house, they know there's a bunch of responsibility for it, but they want the benefit on the other side of owning something. The problem is once they've signed up for it, they typically make the payment because they don't like living outside. That would be a worst case scenario. Most people, the same thing is true if you look at cars, how expensive they are to get into. Most people are like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be responsible and make this payment because otherwise I have to walk everywhere I go. And you go down the list of important things like your phone bill. You're going to pay your phone, you're going to pay your heat, you're going to pay your air conditioning, electric bill, because the alternative is ugly. The problem is when you look at just selling a legal plan to somebody, the alternative is, well, if I didn't use this before, I don't care what happens this time. So at $25 or whatever it is, nobody cares. They're like, I'd just rather go without. As opposed to, if you list on one side, you're selling responsibility. If you list on the other side, you're selling money, you're selling security, you're selling the ability to solve the basics, you're selling the ability to travel, you're selling the ability to get what you want. It's actually easier. Now, what most people do is they're comparing this. They're comparing, well, I would rather sell something that's $35 than $135, or I'd rather sell something that's $50 than $150, because in your mind, that seems like a lesser amount of money. But that's not what you're selling. You're not selling the price. You're selling what you get for that price. And that's where most people miss it and make things way harder than they need to be. So, number one, leaders who are responsible get the job done. Number two, they're willing to go the extra mile. So this is a principle that I was taught by a friend of mine, Tim. And Tim says, you'll have to see that the people who make great money inside the industry go the extra mile. They do more than what's expected. They do more than what's expected. So if they're like, well, if you just present twice a day. So basically what you've done is you've accepted the fact that you're going to do the absolute bare ass minimum, and then you're going to expect great results. Where does that work out anywhere else in life? Well, I'm going to do the bare minimum to be healthy, and then you're surprised you're sick. I'm going to do the bare minimum to try to lose weight, and I only lost 1 pound. I'm going to do the bare minimum, in whatever else you're doing. I'm going to do the bare minimum in tennis, and I wonder why I'm not a professional. I'm going to do the bare minimum at golf. I'm going to do the bare minimum at practicing martial arts, and I wonder why I get beat up. The bare minimum is only getting you to the point where you're proficient in what you're doing. It will not lead you to the money. It will not lead you to success. Success demands a full price payment. It doesn't take a discount. It never goes on sale. There is no discount. There is no speed up. The only way to speed things up is to do all the work in a shorter amount of time. It still requires all the work. And here's what's funny is it requires you to do all the work. It won't even gift it to you if you have somebody else do the work for you. It only comes when you finally get to the point where you do it, which obviously isn't that attractive. But what I like about it is that's what makes it so nice inside of direct sales is there's so many few people who are willing to actually do the work that when you get there, it's so worth it because you get all the benefits of being quote unquote the rock star or being the, celebrity, but you don't have to put up with any of the crap that they do. Because most people will never know who you are, even though you have the lifestyle and the money. I mean, in fact, you probably have a better lifestyle than some people because if you are a celebrity, rock star, sports star, whatever, you can't go anywhere. Several times I've seen famous people out. I've seen movie stars. I've seen famous basketball players, famous football players, people who play for the NBA, people who play for the NFL. And every time they're noticed, they get surrounded. People want them to sign stuff. People want them to, they start asking questions. Hey, can I get my picture with you? And I've seen them at meals. I've seen them at dinners. I've seen them in elevators. Had a quick conversation with them, because we were in the elevator. I mean, it's like, what else do you do? I just treated them like a person, and I could tell that they were thankful that I didn't want anything from them. I was like, that it was almost like, don't you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, but I don't care. Because, in reality, I didn't, I was like, they were cool people, but, I didn't necessarily care. I didn't need my picture with them or anything. And they were in the middle of doing family stuff. If I see them out and they're doing public stuff, it would have been different. And what I mean by public stuff is if they're asked out to come out and take pictures with a bunch of people, I would have done it. But I don't try to do that to people when they're out with their family, when they're at dinner. A friend of mine kind of approached somebody at dinner. It was this famous football player. And he's like, hey, man, can I get a picture? And you could just tell the guy's like, look, I'm just trying to eat dinner with a friend. And I can't eat dinner with a friend. And as soon as he was noticed, he noticed that other people started noticing who he was. And he's like, yeah, man, I got to go. And he left. Because he just doesn't want to. So, but are you willing to go the extra mile is my point. Are you willing to do the work? No matter what it is, in any sport, in any music, in any activity, you're going to have to do all the work and then some to be able to get where you want to go. It's just going to take that to be successful. Number 3 is leaders are driven by excellence. So the responsibility part is doing what you have to do, going the extra mile, and then doing it to the best possible, ability that you can. Whether that's contacting, whether that's inviting, whether that's presenting, whether that's following up, showing up to events. It's just part of the deal. It's like, I love it when people are like, yeah, but I can't make it to everything. Can you imagine? I mean, but they want to make the funny thing is if they didn't want to make the money, I could totally understand. If they weren't serious about getting paid, I could completely understand that you're going to skip this and skip that. It doesn't matter. But people somewhere have it in their heads that they can skip all that and still make the money. And I'm like, on what planet do you live? How can you be so, I guess the right word is naive. How can you be so naive that you feel that you can skip everything that everybody else is going to be successful, but you're going to make it without going? Like, how does that work out in your mind? I just wonder that. But that's that naivety that, again, people want to show up once in a while and get paid for full-time work. You can't show up once in a while and get paid for full-time work. It doesn't work anywhere, in the spectrum of things. Can you imagine showing up every once in a while to work and demanding a check? Like, that doesn't work out, ever. It doesn't work out in real estate. It doesn't work out in insurance. It doesn't work out in financial services. It doesn't work out in the mortgage business. It doesn't work out in athletics. It doesn't work out in the Olympics. Like, where in your mind does that work out? And it's okay. I love this one. Yeah, but I've seen that before. Like, you haven't seen the inside of your office that you go to every day. Like, you haven't seen the same transaction in real estate over and over again. But all of a sudden, this is, well, I've seen that before. Well, yeah, of course. They're going to talk about the same thing over and over again because those are the things you need to know. Could you be blindfolded and write those down without going to the training? I mean, have you memorized everything? Do you know the 10 core? Do you know the steps? Do you know every product that your company has? Do you have it inside and out where you could sell it forward and backwards? Do you know all the pricing? Do you know the compensation plan backwards and forwards? And not that you have to know every single piece of it to be successful. You really don't. But there's certain things you need to know. And how can you be so irresponsible to think you don't need to know some of this stuff and you'll still be successful? Like, where does that work out? It doesn't, by the way. It just doesn't work out. My friend told me this. He's like, Jeff, if you want to be where they're at, you have to be where they're at. And I was like, huh? He goes, think about it. If you want to be where somebody who makes $1 million or $100,000 or $50,000, honestly, if you want to make some, over 1,000 is what I say. You can kind of screw around inside of, specifically this company. You can screw around inside of this company. I've seen people make about $1,000 that aren't serious. They're not showing up. They do their own thing. If $1,000 is all you want, every once in a while, it's not consistent, but every once in a while you want to make $1,000 because you're willing to go out and talk to enough people, or you hit the right business or the right company or whatever, and you walk in the door, you can make $1,000. I've seen it happen, but not consistently. But if you want to make over that and you want to make it consistently, there is no option but to plug in. There is no option. Because to date, I've never seen anybody make it. And I've been around the industry since I was 19. I've been around the industry since I was 19. So what is that, like 24, going on 25 years this year. I've never seen anybody make it. So you're going to be the one exception. That's your goal. You want to be the one exception who figures it out. I'm going to figure out how to show up every once in a while and lie to my team and tell them that I was there and not be there. Like, it just doesn't work out like that. It is something that has to be consistent. So, and this one's a tough one because responsibility is a hard sale, right? I'd rather be talking about all the stuff you're going to get. I'd rather be talking about how easy it is. I'd rather be talking about, the process. But the reality is this is where we lose a lot of people in success, is just being responsible for what it takes. I wish they would come out and have hey, this is what it's really going to take. If you feel otherwise, we'll give you all your money back. And you can go play somewhere else that, in dreamland where you think this is going to work out for you. Most people, again, treat most businesses like the lottery, and I don't care what business it is. I mean, it could be Legal Shield, it could be any other direct sales company. I've seen people get in real estate and treat it like that. I've seen people get into financial services and treat it like that. Insurance, they think it's like a lottery. Well, I'm going to talk to 5 people, and then all of a sudden they're going to refer me everybody, and I like all those people. They think that's going to have a big factor on, becoming successful inside of business. Well, I like having my own schedule. Oh, well, where was that on the application that was how you get paid doing this? You get paid doing this, doing the work. A lot of people never figure out what the work is, let's face it. So they produce regardless of the situation. So that's what a responsible person shows up regardless of their situation. Well, I don't have anybody coming. That has nothing to do with you showing up. If they say, hey, this is what it takes to make it, is to show up to every event. And they're like, but I don't have anybody. Where the hell was that on the application? That was nowhere in the training that says if you have somebody, you can show up. And if you don't have anybody, you stay home. That's not how it works. It says you have to show up every single week. It's a 52-week commitment. You have to show up to your event. You have to show up to your training. You have to show up to your regional. You have to show up to your convention. Yeah, but I don't have anybody yet. That's the reason you don't have anybody yet, is there's no commitment behind what you're doing. Therefore, no one will follow you. And I know that's rough and tough and hard, and you think all these things, but when you sign up, they should actually have a sheet and say, before you sign on the dotted line, these are the things that are required to be successful. We just want to make sure that this is laid out. And I know some companies are actually doing that, or have to do that. Some companies are fighting or resisting that because they want to tell everybody it's easy and it's simple and you only need 2 people and everything's going to work. The reality is there's a lot of work to this. And if you don't do the work and you don't come out and you don't show up, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for you. But can you still get it done? Yes. You can still become successful. It can happen. And at any point, you can make that decision. You can make that decision and take off. Brandy? Okay, never mind. So, reflecting on it, bringing it home. Let's go. He said, number 1, if you've messed up so far, number 1, hang in there. Number 1, hang in there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to go through a lot of crap, but you can make it. It can happen for you. If you just hang in there, it says sometimes the inability to deliver despite difficult circumstances can be due to persistence problem. You just don't have that stick with it attitude of I'm going to make it no matter what. And that's why I like working with athletes. That's why I like working with military people. That's why I like working with a certain group of individuals, because they get it. I like working with people who like to work out. Here's why. I know for a fact that if you work out on a regular basis, you don't want to do it all the time. I know that. People who eat right, and what I mean by eat right is eat right 80% of the time. The people who eat right 80%, I know you don't want to do it. I know you'd rather get pancakes. I know you'd rather get a waffle. I know you'd rather get a sugary snack. I know that because I'm like that too. There are some days I don't want to go, but I don't want the alternative. That's why I show up at the gym every single day. That's why we eat 80-20. Most of the time we're 80-20. Every once in a while there's a week where we'll get completely off a track, and then all of a sudden reality slaps you in the face. You know, you don't feel good, you don't look good, and that snaps you back into place, and you're like, okay, I need to get back on track. Need to eat the good stuff. So hang in there. Next, he says, if you want to be, you know, a leader and be responsible, he says, admit what's not good enough. So this is raising your standards. You want to raise your standards. You know, if you haven't been committed up until now, if you haven't been responsible up until now, raise your standard. He said, say, this is no longer good enough. The environment I'm in, no longer good enough. The people that I'm around, no longer good enough. The money I make, no longer good enough. The debt I have, no longer good. Like, that's got to go. The savings account, no longer good enough. The investment account, no longer good enough. The travel that I get to do, no longer good. I've got to raise my standard. I've got to do more. You know, the car I drive, no longer good enough. So, you know, those are things you can control. You can pick out whatever car you want as long as you can afford it. You can pick out whatever house you want as long as you can afford it. So a lot of people complain, well, I just don't make enough money. Well, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? That's yours. You just haven't done the work. Especially, well, the funny thing is if you're in direct sales, you can make any amount of money you want, right? I mean, to a point, you know, there's only so much money that has been printed on the planet up until now, but here's the thing, they'll print more. They'll print more. If you started making half of the money in the world, trust me, somebody's going to get pissed off and they're just going to print more for you, and they'll be like, I'll keep mine, and then we'll print more for everybody else. That's how it works. So Dan's with us, Iman's with us. So admit it's not good enough. Last, it says find better tools. So if you want to be more responsible, find better tools. Sometimes to be responsible, to get things done, you have to get organized. And that's one thing I was not good at. You know, Brandy's like, oh, I have a list, I have this. I'll write a list and forget what I wrote down. I'll write a list and not finish it. I'll write a list and not remember where I put the list. I'll write a list, look at the list, and then go do something else. So the ADHD kicks in, I forget what I'm doing, I go make a sandwich instead, I go work out, I do all these other things, all these other tasks. I'll get 10 phone calls and forget that I was on task to do stuff. There's some stuff I'm not really good at, and there's some other stuff that I'm really good at, and I get certain things done. The presentation stuff, I typically get done every day, because in my mind I'm like, I have to present today, I have to present today, I have to present today. And eventually, I'll get in front of somebody and I'll present. Yesterday, I think there was 3, maybe 4 people that I presented to. You know, yes, it was over the phone. I was able to talk with a good friend of mine who's also part of our team, Francisco, and I was able to sit with him, and I was able to watch him go through the presentation. You know, and we were talking about, you know, okay, how can we tweak this? How can we make it better? That's something consistently that responsible people do, is they also evaluate what they're doing and where they're at. And they get better. They increase what they're doing. You know, they increase their numbers, they increase their efficiency, they increase the frequency in which they do things, and then all of a sudden their business starts to move faster. So that's, you know, just a couple things when it comes to responsibility that I see inside of the business. You know, the first thing you have to be responsible for is you. You know, the next thing that you have to be responsible for is understanding what is it going to take. Because some people have never spelled out, this is what it takes to be successful. You know, and there's a difference between being successful and recruiting somebody. You can recruit somebody and not be successful, as if that makes sense. Because recruiting requires the following: making a list of who you're going to talk to, talking to them to set up a time to present, doing a presentation, and sometimes the presentation is enough. If you show it to enough people, sometimes the presentation is enough, and at the end of the presentation, people are like, okay, there's a very small percentage of people that you can make a list with, contact them, set up a time, present to them, and they sign up on the spot. It's a very small number, but it happens. And if you present a lot, it happens a lot. The only reason it happens a lot is because you present a lot, and what people see is the people signing up, and they don't see all the work that goes in between. Most people, after you present, they're going to want to know more. they're going to hesitate. They're going to hesitate because they have fear. They're going to hesitate because they don't have the money that day. They're going to hesitate because they have questions. They're going to hesitate because they just hesitate. That's what they do in life. They hesitate on every decision they make. You know, they hesitate going to the store. They hesitate fixing the broken, whatever in the house. They hesitate taking the car in to get an oil change, which I have to do, by the way. They hesitate getting the tires rotated. They hesitate they hesitate on everything. Why would you expect them not to hesitate on joining your business? They hesitate on everything. So you have to look at, sometimes people fail to realize that's something they do on everything. Why would they change their mind here? So how do you get them to make the next step? Well, the next step is getting them the information and then getting them on the phone with somebody other than you to confirm and or validate what you're talking about. Alex is with us. What's up, man? So if you make a list, and if you contact them, and if you present to them, and then if you get them the information and you get them to third party, the next step is getting them to an event. An event is anything live. It could be the show. It could be a presentation that we do on Thursday night. It could be a presentation in your local market. It could be a Zoom meeting. So it doesn't have to be a physical live presentation, although I like physical live presentations because then you get to meet and see other people, and those are the people who are committed at a higher level, and that's who I want to be working with. The people who come out to the event, that's who I want to attach myself to. That's who I really, really, really want to help. The people who stay home and call every once in a while, I love them, but they're not really part of the game usually. Not really part of the game. They're really not in it to win it yet. They could be, but they're just not yet. So, if they get to the point where they get to the event, if you've made a list, you've presented to them, or made a list, you contacted them, you presented to them, you've gotten them the information, you got them on the phone with third party invites them to the event, and they show up to the event, the likelihood of at that point they're signing up goes up greatly. But this stuff over here, meaning the work of doing that, doesn't override coming out to the events and setting the example for everybody that you are recruiting on what to do, how to learn to recruit, and how to build a business. Because here's the thing, unless you know everything, you can't train your team to do everything that needs to be done unless you're running the training. Now think about this. We want you to come out to this stuff over here, these trainings, this event, we want you to be responsible to show up to the things that are happening. And you're like, no, I'm going to train my team. Well, you're actually going to do more work trying to train your team on your own than you are coming out to the events that are already set up. If you come out to the events that are already set up, what do you have to know other than where it is and what time it starts? Nothing. You just show up. So that's what makes it easy for new people is you just show up like Donald does, like I do, like Brandy does. We just show up. Somebody else runs the meeting, does the event. We take the notes. We basically ask questions afterward. What did you get out of this? What did you like best? I follow up. We build the relationships. We go home. We don't have any of the responsibility. We don't have to show up early. We don't have to put together the sound set. We don't have to, have an itinerary. We don't have to put the chairs out. We don't have to bring any of the food. We don't have to find the speakers. We don't have to pay the speakers to, get there, however they get there. We don't have to organize anything. We don't have to send out the rest of the emails. We don't have to print the tickets. There's a lot that goes into all these events, and people are like, well, I don't want to go to that event. That event say the same thing every time. I was like, well, can you say the thing that they're saying? No. Well, then you haven't been there enough. So, special United Kingdom. So, by the way, we're launching into the United Kingdom any minute. I know it's at the end of the month. We're going to the United Kingdom, which is going to be really cool, building the business over there. It's a separate business. You can get a referral to send somebody over there, but it's a separate business altogether. You would have to sign up twice. It's the way that it works most of the time when you go into a foreign country is they have their own entity that you'd have to sign up in, their own tax system, their own pay plan, and their own product. It's separate. It's not exactly the same, although it's underneath the same company. We can get a referral from sending people over there. So if you know anybody in the United Kingdom, which includes, I believe, Britain, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and I know I'm probably missing one, but I know it's at least those four. So if you know anybody in the UK, we have the ability to start a business there. So if you know them, we have the ability to refer over and actually get a commission check for somebody actually joining over there. You also have the ability to sign up, but they're only letting the people sign up over there is if you can go and actually physically help the team and you know what you're doing. Obviously, if you haven't signed up anybody over here, the likelihood of you signing somebody up across the ocean and being able to help them in a different time zone is probably not that good. So it'd be better to refer them to somebody who can help them. So with that, be responsible, stay on track. I'm just seeing what time it is, and make it happen. So tomorrow we're going over security. Security. How do you build security inside of your business? How do you build security inside of your team? Because there's two different kinds of security you want to build. You want to build financial security, but you also want to build cultural security. I was making up words there. So with that, I hope everybody got a lot out of this. We are covering the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader on this call or on this show every single day, Monday through Friday. And then next, we're doing the MLM Millionaire Show where we cover the 21 laws of leadership. So I hope this helped. If you guys have any questions, need anything, reach out, instant message us. We will be here. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.